American concerns that Great Britain might fall to Axis forces in World War II, and therefore eliminating the possibility of launching bombing missions into occupied Europe from British territory, led to an April 1941 bid request being sent out for a bomber with a 10,000 pounds payload and a range of 10,000 miles. Northrop presented variants of the N-9 designs, with a contract being received for one model N-9 1/3 scale test aircraft and one full-size mock-up. The project would be known as Project MX-140, and the new bomber designated the XB-35. Contents research and data obtained during the testing of these and other experimental aircraft would lead to today's B-2 Spirit bomber and beyond. Project MX-140 and the N-9XB-35/YB-35YB-49 tragedy. Hope, abandonment, tiny wing-backed bombers. The dream realized. The N-9M mock-up would be a flying wing design with a 60-foot wingspan, powered by two Monasco C6S, for 269 engines producing 269 horsepower each. Top speed was 257 miles per hour, service ceiling 19,500 feet, with a weight of 6,235 pounds. Eventually, two more prototypes were added to the order, resulting in the designations N-9M-1, N-9M-2, and N-9MA. N-9MS had a similar structure to Northrop's earlier N-1M, consisting of extensive use of wood with steel and aluminum tubing. A single-seat cockpit had a bubble canopy, and if a fuel tank was removed from behind the pilot, an observer could sit sideways behind the pilot. It was said to be an uncomfortable position, and Jack Northrop, after making a single test flight in the position, agreed. Test flights for the N-9M-1 began on December 27, 1942. As seemed to be Northrop's nemesis, issues with engine reliability appeared which limited flight times. On May 19, 1943, tragedy struck as test pilot Max Constant fought the aircraft in a nose-down spin over Rosamond Dry Lake. Anti-spin parachutes had been installed on the aircraft, and Constant deployed the left chute, finding it ineffective. Constant jettisoned the canopy in an attempt to bail out. The aircraft had propeller locks that locked the two bladed pusher propellers in order to protect pilots in the event of a bailout. However, Constant was pinned in by the control column and was killed when the aircraft crashed. Control reversal hydraulic rams would be installed to push the column forward in the event of such an emergency. A fourth aircraft, designated the N-9MB, was built to replace the N-9M-1. The N-9MB was the last N-9 built and featured leading-edge slots, elevons, and split rudders. The aircraft also utilized a fully hydraulic flight control system with airspeed-sensitive feedback. Power was improved by two Franklin XO 540-7 engines, producing 300 horsepower each. Tests continued with the remaining N-9 models, including various control system variations, wind tunnel testing, and tests gathering drag data that would later be used for the larger XB-35. The program was considered complete after multiple flights by United States Air Force personnel and Air Materiel Command, AMC. During this time, work on an autopilot system was completed, as well as further data amassed for the XB-35 program. The N-9s were retired in 1947, all eventually scrapped but one. The single survivor and last N-9 built, the N-9MB, was obtained by Ed Maloney of the Planes of Fame Air Museum in Chino, California. The aircraft was restored to flying condition beginning in 1981, and in 1996 flight, testing was completed. After being on display at the museum for years and flying at air shows, the aircraft was lost in an accident along with the pilot on April 22, 2019. Most of Northrop's first experimental flying wings were painted all yellow. However, this made it difficult to determine whether the aircraft was flying inverted from the ground in the air. As a result, the scheme was changed to yellow upper and a blue lower. However, the N-9MA had the paint scheme reversed with a blue upper and yellow lower. The reason the colors are reversed on the N-9M isn't clear. Image credit: United States Air Force, XB-35/YB-35. Concentrating on wartime efforts such as the P-61 Black Widow, as well as producing engine cowlings for B-17s. Coupled with the fact that bases were never lost in Britain, plans for a bomber capable of reaching Europe from United States territory took a back burner at Northrop. During this time period, Convair was also drawing up plans for long-range bombers, including a 6-engine flying wing design of their own, and the massive conventionally designed XB-36 with a range of 10,000 miles. Jack Northrop felt he could reach the initial specifications with simpler and smaller aircraft using his flying wing design, banking on the design's reduction in drag to extend range. The competition of the XB-36 would push Northrop to expedite his flying wing bomber into reality. When completed, the XB-35 would have a wingspan of 172 feet, length of 53 feet 1 inch, and a height of 20 feet 3 inches. The aircraft bomb load would be carried in 6 bomb bays, with 3 in each wing section inboard of the engines. The bays featured rollaway doors, which along with the size of the bays prevented the carrying of larger bombs, including the atomic weapons of the day. The crew positions were somewhat asymmetric, with the pilot in an elevated position to the left of the co-pilot. The pilot had a fixed bubble canopy offering good view, but was described as a hothouse during tests under the desert sun. The co-pilot sat with a view of forward and downward only from the leading edge of the aircraft, through extensive clear glazing. Both pilot and co-pilot had controls and instruments, but only the pilot had the visibility to land or take off. A flight engineer, radio operator, gunners, and a bombardier rounded out the crew. Bunks were provided for relief crews during extended missions. For Pratt & Whitney, our 4360 radial engines were placed in the forward area of the wing, using long shaft to gearboxes attached to the 4 pairs of contra-rotating pusher propellers mounted on the trailing edge. Maximum speed was around 390 miles per hour, with a ceiling of close to 40,000 feet range, with approximately 7,500 miles. A complex cooling system was designed to cool the embedded engines. Separate throttles for each of the 4 engines allowed the flight engineer to control each power plant individually. Heavy-duty tricycle landing gear consisted of 2 twin-wheel main units retracting forwards and the single large nose gear retracting to the left. Planned defensive armament included .50 caliber machine guns in shallow blister turrets above and below the wing and behind the pilot's canopy, operated by a gunner in position with a bubble canopy situated between the central engine locations. An additional 4.50 caliber machine guns were being installed in a conical Stinger-type turret in the tail, able to obtain a wide cone of fire while avoiding the rear-mounted pusher propellers. These guns would be remotely controlled and fired employing a periscope gun sight. A total of 20.50 caliber machine guns, or 20 millimeters cannon, were planned for production version of the aircraft. The first prototype XB-35 42 to 13,603 flew on June 25, 1946. Landing gear retraction took nearly a minute when it left the 5,000-foot runway at Hawthorne, California. Flying for 45 minutes, the XB-35 made the trip to Muddick Dry Lake without any issues. Subsequent testing revealed the engines and propellers that had been provided by the military as GFE, government-furnished equipment, had not been tested for compatibility, and after 3 to 4 flights, vibrations increased and the contra-rotating propellers began to fail.